மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. Thank you.
Welcome back, guys. So in this exercise, we're going to see a game which comes from a good friend of mine. His name is Kevin Go Wei Ming. He is the Singapore chess champion, and he's actually a specialist in the London opening. He's put probably even more time than me into studying a lot of London lines. He's taught me a good number of ideas in the London. So in this game, we're going to see a slightly different line than we've seen before, where Kevin goes for this immediate c3. I should note that if he were to go for knight f3, this could go into some variations we've seen before with queen b6. But c3, very playable move. After queen b6, queen b3, black grabs some space with c4. And now white has a kind of first decision to make. Should he go for queen take b6, or should he retreat the queen? The move to play here is queen c2. If white were to capture on b6, this is only helping black. Black is happy to recapture, have the half-open a file, have more space on the queen side with plans of eventual b5 and b4. So going back, queen c2 is played. I'm sure Kevin was still in some sort of opening preparation. And now we should note in this position, some idea like bishop f5 doesn't quite work with intention to deflect white away from defending the b2 pawn. White can happily take the bishop. And then after queen take b2, white is happy to play something like queen b1 and just be up material. So bishop f5 doesn't work. What was played in the game was knight h5, going after the bishop pair. And now we're going to see a somewhat strange sequence of moves where black attempts to win the bishop pair, but eventually fails, as we'll see. So white saves the bishop, bishop g5, black kicks the bishop, white retreats, and now g5. And at first it looks like white is almost forced to play bishop g3, which would allow knight take g3. And I have an idea that this is probably what black was expecting in this game, to just kick the bishop to g3, take it, and have the bishop pair with a decent position. But Kevin played a nice resourceful move here. Instead of retreating the bishop, he goes for the counterattack and plays the very nice bishop to e2, counterattacking the knight. And also putting the question to black, does he really want to take the bishop pair? If he were to take on h4, white is happy to take on h5. And it's a trade, but black is left with some pretty ugly double pawns on the h file. This is playable though. I mean, e5 is a potential move, but I do like white's chances just from a positional standpoint, as this h pawn is a long-term weakness. White could just play something like knight f3 and probably be winning a pawn very soon. So going back here, after bishop to e2, black decided he didn't want to go into that line. He played the perhaps very awkward knight to g7. You don't see this every day, where a player can fianchetto their knights. The knight is usually not the best piece on a square like g7 or b7 for black. And now white can retreat the bishop, happily saving the bishop pair. And now I do want to mention that in this sort of structure, especially with pawns on d5 and e4, white's long-term plan, or in some cases short-term plan, is to open up the center with this move pawn e4. And this is why it is important to keep the bishop pair. If the center is going to open up, then you want to have the two bishops to be active in the position. And we'll see this pretty soon. So after bishop f5, attacking the queen, queen c1, rook c8. I really like white's next move, putting pressure on black. And actually the next move, this move h4, actually provokes black to blunder. Really puts the question how to deal with the simple threat of h take g5. And now what black should have played in this position is just capturing on h4. Probably not the most desirable move, but it would have been probably would have been necessary, given other options were not as good. But after rook take h4, white is very happy with this position, just better structure. e4 is likely coming, and white has everything to play for. So going back, what happened in the game was knight e6. And it looks like a really awkward move, but perhaps black's plan was to support the g-pawn, create some square for the bishop on g7. But this brings us to the tactical moment where white's next move is actually very natural for the position. And at first, actually, when I first saw this game, when I saw the next move, I thought it was just a positional move. I didn't realize the tactics behind it. So if you haven't picked up on the clues that I've given so far, the move for white is pawn e4, going for the central explosion and putting the question to black what to do as the pawn on d5 is attacked and the bishop on f5 is also attacked. And this is actually a really nice fork idea. White is not only forking the pawn and the bishop, but has future ideas of forking the knights, which are clearly misplaced on c6 and e6. And it turns out black has no way to save himself from losing material in this position. If d take e4 is played, then the very simple d5 just forks the knights. Meanwhile, what else to do for black if the bishop retreats? Again, the knights get forked. The only other move to consider moving the bishop would be bishop to e4, but then knight take e4, pawn take e4, the knights are still getting forked. So I'm sure black realized the problems here as white is guaranteed to win a minor piece. And what happened in the game, black tried to lose a minor piece in the best way possible, decided to take on d4, sacrificing the knights. But really, it was just a blunder of the minor piece from after playing knight e6. Going forward here, white was happy to just go up material. Things simplified a bit. Lots of trades happened, and now in this position, white is just up a minor piece. I do want to show the end of the game because it was a bit comical. I mean, white just has a huge advantage here, but the fact that black played on made it a bit entertaining. So zooming forward here, you can sit back, just relax, and enjoy the way that white is able to convert the position. Starting with bishop h5, exploiting the safety of the king. It's a theme that we've seen a lot in this course so far. When the king is in the center and doesn't get the opportunity to castle, then very good things can happen for white. And now in this case, especially with extra minor piece, we're going to see how white just organizes a completely brutal attack. Going forward here, retreats the bishop, completes development, finds a very safe square for the king on f1, where very hard for black to target white's king. And then meanwhile, white is simply going after black's king. d5 is a very nice multi-purpose move, maybe ideas of d6 and rook d1 to open the d-file. Additionally, white has ideas of knight d4 to access some really nice squares in black's territory. So going forward, the game continues. White does eventually infiltrate, and the finish to the game was quite beautiful, as we'll see very soon. I think starting with knight e5, this is the beginning of the king walk for black. And after king d6, the king walks up the board, and it was a pretty magnificent way for black to lose. White sacrifices this knight on c4 to have a very beautiful checkmate on e2. So I hope this brings some joy to the people watching. I think the big takeaway from especially from this line is to know this idea with pawn e4. At least know that it's not only a positional idea, but in some cases a tactical idea to completely open up the center in white's favor. So really hope you guys enjoyed that one, and I will see you in the next video.
மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. Thank you.